welcome to the episode 4 of Talking UN, a project that's a brand new initiative of the UN Information Office in Uzbekistan. Previously, if you remember, we were joined by the UN Resident Coordinator in Uzbekistan, Her Excellency Anita Nerodi, and followed by Yako Silis, who is the Assistant Resident Representative of UNDP in Uzbekistan. And we also had a very interesting conversation with the representatives of a relatively new agency, UN Women, who started their activity in Uzbekistan quite a few months ago. And today, for the 4th edition of our project, we're joined by Marc Liberati, who's the Program Officer of UN Volunteers in Uzbekistan. Thank you very much, Marc, for joining us for the 4th edition of Talking UN. My first question to you is, Hasha and Volunteerism are two words that appear most of the time in the same context, similar context, in the same sentences. How would you differentiate these two?
Yeah, I think it's actually a really interesting way to start any conversation in Uzbekistan about volunteerism, because there is this indigenous concept of Hashar. I've given it a lot of thought since I've been here, and the difference, or the way I like to think about it, is Hashar is more about the collective. Hashar is more this social insurance. You are part of this community who is conducting Hashar. You pay into it, meaning you pay into this social insurance, meaning when your neighbor or someone in the mahalla needs help, you provide that help. But you also expect to receive. So it's a little different than volunteerism, which I think is more individualistic. So it's about I think the subtle difference, if you're going to break it down that way, is between the individual and the collective. But I think Hashar is a fantastic institution, and so UNV, of course, wants to build on that. But I think what we try to do is try to say, this is a fantastic social insurance, this is a social protection, and it does use volunteers, but we should also think about how to have individualized self-actualization. An individual is passionate about a topic, and he or she just wants to then put that into action, that passion in action. And that's where volunteerism comes in stronger. So I think these two can live side by side, and together actually it builds upon the social protections in the society.
Thank you very much. My second question is, what are some of the upcoming projects of UNV in Uzbekistan, and can you tell us a bit more about the background and the purposes that these upcoming projects intend to achieve in the country?
We have, actually, at the very moment, we have no projects, but I'm very pleased to say that in the next few weeks, we are going to be launching, and we've gone through a very long process, a youth project, which is quite ambitious for Uzbekistan, and will be one of the only fully focused on youth-led development projects in the UN system. We will be working with different youth organizations, though mainly Kelajako Voice the Future. And so UNV has been partnering with them on different initiatives throughout my time here. They organize an excellent summer camp, and they also organize some events around International Youth Day. So we are looking to them because they're in all of Uzbekistan. They have youth centers throughout the system. They're well known, and of course we're going to be working with other ones as well, but that's going to be probably our partner as we see it now. What we'll be doing, the project is, so there's going to be many different components. One is about building the volunteer capacity of the organizations we'll be trying to build up. So UNV likes to call them volunteer involving organizations. So Kelajako would be a volunteer involved. They use volunteers. They're a nonprofit. They're like a non-governmental organization. And we want to help build their capacity and try to make them as efficient and effective as an organization, and in using those volunteers as possible. So we're going to be working with them. We're also going to be trying to make some volunteer infrastructure. So this is, I always get these young people, they call me and they say, I want to volunteer in Uzbekistan. And I say, well, there's only so many UN volunteer positions, and but I feel this guilt, because there's all this demand and there's not enough supply. So what we came up with was trying to match this demand and supply. Well, first of all, create some more supply and match that demand and supply. So part of the project is going to be talking to other NGOs, including Kalajakawazi, in creating spots that they will then accept more volunteers. And then we're going to create a website where we will be listing all of those opportunities, and then people can go on and apply to those. So we hope to both increase the demand, but also help match it so that people can basically explore that avenue. Because they hear about this, they hear people do internships, they do volunteer, and they're looking for opportunities here, and we really hope to create that. Another component to the project I think is quite interesting is mini grants, mini projects, let's call them, though I think we're going to be titling them officially small-scale volunteer projects. These will be youth-led, meaning the youth are going to have to come up with their own idea, what they would do with a very small amount of money, and volunteers, and then implement a project, very much the way UN agencies do. And we're going to be going around and monitoring them. We plan to do 25 a year for a total of 50. And not just projects in a vacuum. They should be working with the local community. So how we're going to structure it is they're going to have to come up with a brilliant idea. They're also going to have to get the community involved and make sure that the community wants what they're offering. and then they're going to have to implement that project. And the idea is it's about, in the UN system sometimes we come up with project ideas. This is about giving young people the opportunity to come up with their own ideas. It's a little like a venture capitalist. There's going to be 50 projects. We're going to fund them. We're going to monitor them. We're going to nurture them. We're going to let them grow. And then we're going to see what happens. And even if we get 10 amazing projects that will just inspire the UN system and could potentially be scaled up, that would be a huge success for a very small amount of money. So this is probably the most exciting part of what we're doing. But there's actually a lot of more things in here, but I just kind of wanted to touch upon the main points.
Thank you, Mark. You've recently taken part in International Youth 21 Forum that took place in Kenya, Nairobi. My question to you is, what outcomes, there were outcomes that all the delegates have agreed upon, what outcomes do you think the UN in Uzbekistan has been able to incorporate into its work?
I'll tell you this. I think sometimes, so someone watching, an average person looking at the UN, they hear these declarations and they wonder when it comes filtering down, okay? So I guess it's best just to explain the process and the history of what happened. So in the Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon, in his 5-year action plan, which is his vision for the next 5 years, he put youth at the center of the agenda. So this Youth 21 was the conference in which to bring global youth to decide on how that, to add their input on how that action plan should be implemented. They came up with great ideas, and that's in the Nairobi Declaration. Okay, this is still very much at this political policy level. What's now happening is much more interesting. Actually, UNDP is formulating its, I just know UNDP and UNV, and I can't speak to other agencies, so forgive me. But I know that UNDP is coming up with their own, basically, strategy for youth, and that will slowly filter down in the system. There will probably be a focal point here at UNDP, and then there might be more youth involved in the decision-making process. Now, the average person might say, okay, still, how does that affect me? Well, it will add, in the areas that UN is going to be touching, there is definitely going to be many more opportunities for youth, though that's yet to be seen how exactly that will happen. What I will tell you is UNV, this is much more concrete. UNV is going to, so at the moment to be a national or international UN volunteer, you have to be 25 years of age. So again, when I have these young people call me, they say, I want to volunteer, my first question is, how old are you? I'm 19, and I say, oh, well, I'm sorry, you're going to have to wait some years. And they're very disappointed, and they have this energy. And so, and I understand, UNV wanted to be a professional volunteer organization. So what they're doing, and they're doing it right now, they'll be starting, it's called UN Youth Volunteers. And these UN Youth Volunteers will have a minimum age of 18. And they're going to roll this out in 2013. And so very soon, we're going to see this new modality that all UN agencies can take, which means people in the projects will be able to apply, young people, and they can be 18 years of age. And also, it's going to be structured in a way that it's going to be not that expensive for agencies. So we hope to have a lot. So we hope to have a lot of opportunities. So you're going to feel these youth volunteers. It's not just a UN agency and a project office and a few people. There should be lots, and it should be projects that are really working in the communities. So large scale, big things. So we really get the average person on the street feels us, sees a young person who's working as a UN youth volunteer, and that's kind of the idea. So it's still hasn't come to the ground yet, but it's really getting close. And I think 2013 we'll see that rolled out, and we'll hope to do some advocacy around that.
Looking back at these 3 years that you have spent in Uzbekistan and looking back at your experience, what do you think would be the role of UNV in Uzbekistan, and how do you think it has managed to evolve over the years?
Well, the UN, I wish I knew more about the history of UNV in Uzbekistan, but from the history I know, and actually what's really cool, if you go to the History Museum here in Tashkent, in that History Museum, there's a whole it goes through all the different periods of history for Uzbekistan, and then you come to independence, and there's a little section where UNV is, and it's a very old logo, is located. So I know UNV has been active in Uzbekistan for a long time. My guess, because I know this globally, that in the 90s well, mostly in the 90s, and it did change, I don't know when the year was, but UNV was more about just placing volunteers in UN agencies and UN projects. They didn't really do too much of their own activities. It was just supporting, other UN agencies in helping them with getting young, energetic professional people. At some point, UNV tried to do its own programming. And I know that one of the first projects in Uzbekistan in recent history was the TB project in Karakalpakstan, where we had mobilized 3,000 volunteers. Now we're going to be having this youth project, and there might even be a regional component added to that, kind of integrating that into the larger regional context. So I think going from a very small agency, and it's still a very small agency, but going from a small agency that was mostly staffing to now doing programming, advocating, working with large NGOs in Uzbekistan, such as Kelajek Avazi, it's definitely grown, but with that comes a lot of responsibility. And so we have to make sure that we manage expectations and that we work well with our partners and we deliver the results that the people expect from us.
So, and we and I, on behalf of UN Information Office, wish you good luck in that very important endeavor that you're looking forward to. Marc Liberati, the UN Volunteers Program Officer, who has joined us for the 4th edition of Talking UN. Thank you, Marc.
Thank you.
It was great having you.
Thank you.
Sit down.